The world of reality television thrives on drama, raw emotion, and the intimate glimpse into lives most of us will never live. But few stories have shaken audiences as profoundly as the shocking rise and now the fall of Amy Slaton on TLC's 1000 Sisters. From the very first moment she appeared on screen, Amy was magnetic, a force of personality impossible to ignore. She was unapologetically herself, vulnerable, honest, stubborn, funny, and raw. For millions of viewers, she became more than a reality star. She became a mirror, a reflection of struggles, victories, and setbacks that felt achingly familiar. But behind the cameras, a storm was quietly brewing, one that would eventually put everything, her career, her family, and her very life at risk. Amy Slaton first captured the public's attention in 2019, when 1000 Sisters premiered and introduced audiences to the lives of Amy and her sister Tammy. Unlike many reality stars, Amy did not craft a perfect persona for the cameras. She laid herself bare. She spoke candidly about her struggles with weight, the complicated dynamics of her family, and the emotional challenges she faced navigating a world that often seemed determined to judge her. Her vulnerability was not weakness, it was courage. Fans resonated with her authenticity, seeing in her a figure who reflected their own battles, insecurities, and desire to overcome them. From the very beginning, Amy stood out, while many reality stars were polished, rehearsed, and filtered. Amy was messy, spontaneous, and real. She laughed loud, cried harder, and spoke her mind even when it risked controversy. Her journey through weight loss, including multiple highly publicized surgeries, was documented in vivid detail, making fans feel as though they were walking every step alongside her. Each milestone, whether a triumph or a setback, became a shared experience with viewers who celebrated and mourned alongside her. The connection she built was intimate and powerful, but the magnetism of her rise brought with it a hidden price. The attention Amy received was relentless. Social media amplified every moment of her life, dissected every post, photo, and video. Comments, both supportive and cruel, flooded in constantly. Where once she could process struggles privately, the scrutiny left little room for mistakes or vulnerability. And as Amy soared to fame, the pressures behind the scenes intensified, revealing a side of reality TV that fans rarely see. The weight of expectation, the hidden struggles, and the unseen battles that unfold far from the lens, insiders now reveal that beneath the surface, Amy wrestled with challenges that were largely invisible to her fans. For years, she struggled with addiction, particularly the misuse of prescription medications. It was a shadow, subtle and often concealed, quietly, shaping decisions and influencing moments that would eventually explode into public scrutiny. Addiction by nature is insidious. It creeps in slowly, weaving into daily life until its presence becomes nearly invisible to outsiders. For Amy, this hidden battle would ultimately collide catastrophically with her public life, setting the stage for a crisis that would rock TLC and her fans worldwide. The early warning signs were faint, almost imperceptible. Friends and family began noticing changes in her behavior, moments of agitation, lapses in judgment, and subtle withdrawals. Attempts to manage these struggles privately often failed, leaving her isolated and vulnerable. It was a delicate balance, maintaining the vibrant persona her fans loved, while silently grappling with challenges that threatened to unravel everything she had worked for. Despite the pressures, Amy continued to captivate audiences. Her story was one of determination and defiance. She took viewers on a journey through her weight loss surgeries, her successes, and her setbacks. She shared the deep bond she had with Tammy, revealing the intimate, sometimes messy, sometimes heartwarming dynamics of sisterhood. Fans felt a sense of loyalty as though they weren't just watching a show, they were invested in Amy's life. Every milestone, every setback, every emotional revelation was a shared experience. Yet, the very elements that made Amy compelling on screen also made her vulnerable off screen. Reality television is a double-edged sword. It thrives on authenticity and raw emotion, but the pressures of constant exposure, judgment, and expectation can magnify personal struggles. For Amy, the same honesty that made her a star also exposed her to scrutiny and criticism that few could withstand. Social media commentary, public expectations, and network pressures created a perfect storm, leaving little space for privacy or recovery. By 2020, the pressures of fame began to take their toll. Behind the scenes, insiders noticed that Amy's behavior was becoming inconsistent. Friends reported mood swings, moments of withdrawal, and signs of stress that extended beyond the usual pressures of television production. The combination of fame, the demands of filming, and a hidden history of addiction created a volatile mix. It was a ticking time bomb, and few realized just how close it was to detonating. Amy's story was not one of overnight failure. The descent into relapse was gradual, creeping in almost imperceptibly. Prescription medications, originally intended to manage legitimate health concerns, became a source of struggle. Misuse, experimentation, and a desire to manage emotional pain quietly escalated. Family members intervened multiple times, attempting to support her through this hidden crisis. Friends urged her to seek professional help, to step back from the spotlight, and to address the issues before they spiraled out of control. But addiction is not easily confronted, especially under the glare of public scrutiny. TLC executives were not oblivious to these challenges. Internal communications, later leaked, revealed the network's growing concern. Memos detailed instances of behavior inconsistent with network standards and highlighted potential risks to both the audience and the company. Legal advisors and executives met in closed-door sessions, carefully weighing every option. The gravity of the situation was clear. The combination of relapse, public exposure, and potential legal implications created a crisis that could not be ignored. Meanwhile, the fan base remained largely unaware of the silent struggle unfolding behind the cameras. Viewers continued to engage with Amy's story, celebrating her milestones and sharing messages of support. Yet, beneath the surface, Amy faced battles that even her closest supporters could only partially understand. The juxtaposition of public adoration and private turmoil is a hallmark of celebrity culture. But for Amy, it was intensely personal, affecting her mental health, her relationships, and ultimately, her career. Amy's rise on 1000 Pound Sisters illustrates both the power and peril of reality television. Her authenticity was her superpower, connecting deeply with audiences and inspiring millions. But it also left her vulnerable, exposing personal struggles to a level of scrutiny few can withstand. Every decision, every relapse, every emotional response was magnified. And as the pressures intensified, the story that viewers loved so much, the story of triumph, resilience, and sisterhood, began to intersect with a darker, more dangerous narrative. The story of addiction, relapse, and the high stakes of fame. The shockwaves from Amy Slaton's hidden struggles didn't remain behind closed doors for long. What started as quiet concern among family and close friends quickly escalated into a crisis that would engulf her life, the show, and the network itself. The timeline of her relapse is a story of tension, secrecy, and a downward spiral that few outside her immediate circle could have predicted. It's a story that blends private anguish with the harsh glare of public scrutiny, a perfect storm that would force TLC to make one of the most unprecedented decisions in reality television history. Insiders confirm that Amy's relapse unfolded over months, a gradual unraveling that began subtly but intensified quickly. Prescription medications, initially intended to aid her physical health and recovery, became tools of escape. At first, it was occasional misuse a pill taken to calm anxiety. A supplement skipped or doubled, but over time, the frequency and severity increased. Small missteps grew into patterns, and patterns into crisis points that alarmed both family and network staff. What was happening privately behind the Slaton's doors would soon collide violently with the public world. Family members reportedly noticed changes before anyone at TLC did. Amy's sister Tammy, who had long been her closest ally, observed shifts in behavior, periods of withdrawal, uncharacteristic irritability, and secretive moments that hinted at a deeper struggle. "I knew something was off," Tammy reportedly told friends, her voice tinged with both concern and helplessness. "She was trying to fight it on her own, but I could see the storm coming." Despite repeated attempts to intervene, Amy's struggle was compounded by the pressure of maintaining a public persona. On camera, she had to appear strong, cheerful, and in control. Even as her private world began to crumble, the situation escalated to the point that emergency intervention became necessary. Multiple sources indicate that family members and close friends reached out to TLC executives directly, sharing their concerns and urging immediate action. They feared not only for Amy's health, but for the potential legal and public ramifications of her continued participation in the show. Internal communications obtained by insiders reveal that TLC's response was immediate and methodical. Executives convened emergency meetings to review footage, social media posts, and private communications. Trying to gauge the severity of the situation, a leaked internal memo, dated just weeks before the public announcement, outlined the network's growing alarm. It read, in part, "Amy Slaton has exhibited behavior inconsistent with our network standards. Immediate action is required to assess potential risk to the network, its audience, and legal liability." The language is stark, underscoring the seriousness with which the network treated the crisis. Unlike typical reality TV drama, which networks often exploit for ratings, this situation was different. The risk was real, immediate, and potentially catastrophic. Executives and legal advisors reportedly spent days analyzing every possible scenario. They debated intervention strategies, the potential for rehabilitation, and the consequences of both action and inaction. Experts emphasize that networks face unique liabilities in situations like this. Airing content involving a star actively struggling with substance misuse can expose a network to lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, and severe public backlash. From a legal standpoint, TLC had little choice, explains attorney Daniel Rosenthal. If Amy had engaged in illegal activity or behavior that endangered herself or others while under contract, the network could be held accountable. They had to act to protect both their talent and their brand. Meanwhile, Amy's personal life became increasingly fraught. The emotional weight of her struggle, combined with public exposure, placed immense strain on family relationships. Private arguments between Amy and Tammy escalated, fueled by concern, guilt, and the pressure to manage a crisis under public scrutiny. Sources describe late-night discussions that ranged from pleading and reasoning to frustration and desperation. Family members wrestled with difficult decisions: how to support Amy, how to protect the family's reputation, and how to navigate the unrelenting glare of the media. As the network deliberated, Amy's behavior continued to attract attention. Staff and crew members noticed inconsistencies, erratic moments, an emotional volatility that went beyond the usual pressures of filming. Multiple insiders report that Amy attempted to maintain composure on camera, but her private turmoil was increasingly difficult to conceal. The duality of public persona versus private struggle created tension not only for Amy herself, but for the entire production team, who had to balance storytelling with ethical responsibility. Social media, ever vigilant, began picking up on subtle hints. Fans noticed changes in Amy's posts, tone, and energy. Comments ranged from concerned support to speculation about personal issues. Although few could grasp the full extent of her struggle, the collective attention created another layer of pressure. The online world is relentless, and reality TV stars often experience amplified scrutiny that magnifies private struggles. For Amy, the combination of internal crisis and external observation was a perfect storm. Leaving little space for recovery or discretion, the situation reached a tipping point when documented proof of the relapse emerged. TLC executives reportedly reviewed recent filming, private communications, and social media activity to confirm the severity of Amy's struggle. Unlike many reality TV crises that can be contained or spun into a storyline, this situation presented undeniable risks, legal, ethical, and personal. Sources describe tense meetings where executives, legal advisors, and Amy's representatives weighed every possible outcome. The conclusion was unavoidable. Amy Slaton would be permanently banned from the network. The public announcement sent shockwaves through the fan community. Social media exploded with reaction as fans struggled to reconcile their admiration for Amy with the reality of her relapse and the network's decision. Hashtags like #StandWithAmy and #TLC crisis trended almost immediately, illustrating the intensity of viewer investment. Comments poured in from every corner, outrage at the perceived harshness of the network, concern for Amy's well-being, and disbelief that a figure so beloved could face such a sudden professional and personal crisis. Fan reaction was polarizing. Some viewers criticized TLC for what they perceived as punitive action, arguing that Amy deserves support rather than exclusion. "Amy is human," wrote one fan on Twitter. "She made mistakes. She deserves help, not a ban." Others supported the network's decision, recognizing the legal and ethical necessity of protecting both Amy and the audience. "They can't just broadcast someone's drug relapse," commented another. "It's a liability and a safety concern." This is heartbreaking but necessary. The intensity of the debate underscored the emotional connection fans felt too Amy and highlighted the broader questions about reality TV responsibility, ethics, and audience influence. Behind the scenes, the Slaton family faced immense strain. Tammy, who had always been both co-star and support system, found herself navigating a complex mix of emotions: anger, fear, sadness, and helplessness. Sources describe moments of quiet desperation when Tammy wrestled with how to balance advocacy for her sister with the realities of a network that had made a hardline decision. Other family members reportedly offered conflicting guidance, with some urging Amy to step away from public life entirely and others advocating for careful public engagement once recovery had begun. The family's private turmoil mirrored the public chaos, illustrating the multifaceted challenges faced by those closest to a celebrity in crisis. TLC, meanwhile, moved cautiously but decisively. The network's priority was both ethical and pragmatic, protecting its audience, mitigating legal liability, and maintaining the integrity of its programming. Internal sources confirm that the decision to ban Amy permanently was not made lightly. Executives considered temporary suspensions, rehabilitation partnerships, and narrative adjustments, but each option carried risk. Ultimately, the documented severity of the relapse, combined with the ethical and legal considerations, left no alternative. Legal and ethical experts quickly weighed in once the news became public. Media analysts highlighted the complex balance that reality networks must maintain between storytelling, audience engagement, and responsibility to their talent. Critics argue that reality TV often profits from vulnerability, exploiting personal crises for entertainment value. Amy's case reignited debates about whether networks adequately support cast members facing serious struggles or abandon them. When crisis intersects with brand concerns, the personal toll on Amy herself was profound. Friends and insiders reported sleepless nights, anxiety, and moments of despair. She faced not only the shock of her relapse becoming public, but also the consequences of a permanent ban from the network that had defined her career. Mental health experts emphasize that relapse, while deeply challenging, is a part of recovery. For many struggling with addiction, immediate, structured intervention is crucial to support both physical and emotional well-being. The moment Amy Slaton realized that her world had changed forever hit her like a freight train. The ban from TLC wasn't just a professional setback, it was a deeply personal blow that forced her to confront the reality she had long been avoiding. Suddenly, the cameras were gone, the social media spotlight had intensified, and every choice, every misstep, was magnified by a public that had grown deeply invested in her life. For Amy, the stakes were higher than ever. This wasn't just about fame or ratings anymore. It was about survival, redemption, and reclaiming control over a life spiraling dangerously out of her hands. Immediately after the ban, Amy reportedly retreated from the public eye, seeking privacy but struggling to find solace. Friends and family describe a woman wrestling with panic, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of loss. Days blended into sleepless nights, and the isolation only intensified her inner turmoil. The relapse had left scars, both visible and invisible, and she was forced to confront the very real consequences of addiction in a way that fame had previously shielded her from. It was Tammy, as always, who remained her anchor. The bond between the sisters had been tested repeatedly by cameras, surgery, and public scrutiny, but this was a trial unlike any before. Tammy reportedly spent hours talking to Amy, listening without judgment, urging her to seek professional help. Family friends described scenes of late-night conversations, tears, and tense exchanges, moments where love, frustration, and desperation collided. "She's terrified," Tammy reportedly told friends. "But I know that if she can face this, she can come back stronger." She has to. Amy's first step toward recovery was reluctant but decisive. After extensive discussions with family and private advisors, she agreed to enter a rehabilitation program specializing in addiction and mental health. Confidential sources reveal that the program was tailored to address not only substance use, but also the emotional triggers that had contributed to her relapse. Therapy sessions were structured, intense, and designed to help her develop tools for coping in both private and public spheres. The stakes were high. Success meant reclaiming her life. Failure could mean further isolation and public judgment. Rehabilitation, however, was only the beginning. Sources close to Amy report that she immediately had to confront the dual pressures of private recovery and the relentless scrutiny of fans, social media, and former colleagues. Every public post, every statement, and every interaction was analyzed, interpreted, and dissected by an audience that had long considered her life a form of entertainment. Mental health experts emphasize that navigating recovery under this kind of intense observation can be both uniquely motivating and dangerously stressful. Public scrutiny can reinforce positive accountability, but it also amplifies pressure, explains Dr. Karen Mitchell, a psychologist specializing in addiction. For someone in recovery, that pressure can be destabilizing if not managed carefully. As Amy worked on her recovery, the Slaton family continued to grapple with complex dynamics. Tammy remained her advocate, but tensions inevitably arose. Differences in opinion about how public Amy's recovery should be, how much to reveal to fans, and the role of social media created friction. Family insiders describe arguments ranging from subtle disagreements to heated debates as the sisters negotiated boundaries between transparency, protection, and personal healing. They're learning to communicate in ways they never had to before, a friend of the family explains. It's painful, but it's necessary. Meanwhile, the media frenzy showed no signs of slowing down. Even as Amy focused on personal growth, news outlets, online forums, and social media platforms dissected every detail of her relapse, her ban, and her recovery efforts. Hashtags like #AmyRecovery, #SupportAmy, and #ComebackStory became trending. Topics fueling a polarized mix of support, judgment, and curiosity. Fans debated whether TLC's decision had been too harsh or entirely justified, while commentary on her recovery strategy, public posts, and potential future appearances became a constant source of speculation. The weight of public attention was inescapable, and Amy's every move seemed to become a news cycle unto itself. Amid this maelstrom, Amy reportedly began exploring ways to reclaim her professional life. Although TLC's doors were closed, insiders suggest that she considered alternative opportunities, projects that could allow her to share her journey without compromising her recovery. Ideas ranged from motivational speaking to personal health advocacy and digital content creation. The emphasis, sources say, was on authentic storytelling, sharing lessons learned, struggles endured, and victories achieved in a way that resonated with fans while protecting her mental health. Industry insiders highlight that the landscape of reality, television, and celebrity culture has changed. Stars are no longer constrained solely by network programming. Digital platforms, streaming services, and social media channels offer unprecedented avenues for personal narrative control. For Amy, this meant she could potentially pivot from traditional reality TV to content that not only showcased her life, but also served as a platform for awareness and advocacy. The audience is already invested, notes one entertainment analyst. If Amy handles this carefully, she can convert the story from scandal to empowerment. Despite these professional considerations, recovery remained the central focus. Sources indicate that Amy's schedule became rigorous. Therapy sessions, group meetings, physical wellness routines, and structured social interactions designed to rebuild both her body and mind. Each day was an exercise in discipline, self-awareness, and accountability. Friends close to her described moments of doubt and frustration, but also a growing resilience that had been forged through years of public scrutiny and personal struggle. One critical aspect of her recovery involved confronting the psychological triggers that had contributed to her relapse. Mental health professionals working closely with Amy reportedly emphasized the need to process grief, shame, and guilt, not only about the relapse itself, but about the loss of professional identity, social support, and public esteem. For someone whose life had been on display for nearly a decade, the challenge of untangling personal identity from public persona was monumental. Recovery isn't just stopping substance use, explains Dr. Mitchell. It's reclaiming a sense of self that isn't defined by crisis, criticism, or external validation. During this period, Amy reportedly began documenting parts of her journey privately, recording reflections, insights, and small victories. While these were initially intended for personal accountability, family sources suggest that she considered sharing some elements publicly as a means of transparency and connection. The idea was to transform a narrative dominated by scandal into one of growth, accountability, and resilience. For fans who had followed her life for years, this represented not only a potential continuation of the story they knew, but also a deeply human portrayal of struggle and recovery. Social media continued to play a dual role in this phase of Amy's life. While certain platforms heightened pressure and scrutiny, they also became a source of motivation and community support. Fan groups mobilized to share recovery resources, encouragement, and personal stories of struggle, creating a network of empathy and understanding that transcended the superficiality often associated with reality television fandom. Hashtags like #AmyStrong and #RecoveryJourney began circulating, reflecting a growing movement of compassion amidst the controversy. At the same time, legal and ethical considerations remained at the forefront of her potential return to public life. While TLC had made a permanent decision, other networks and streaming platforms reportedly monitored Amy's progress. Insiders suggest that any professional opportunity would hinge not only on her public narrative, but on documented commitment to sustained recovery. The entertainment industry is acutely aware that public missteps can have financial, legal, and reputational consequences. Amy's situation, therefore, was both a cautionary tale and an opportunity, a chance to redefine her career while demonstrating accountability and resilience. Family dynamics continued to evolve. Tammy's role remained critical, but sources reveal that she also faced personal challenges, balancing support for Amy with her own emotional needs, navigating public perception, and maintaining her own professional identity. The sisters reportedly engaged in structured communication exercises, counseling sessions, and boundary-setting practices designed to strengthen their bond while mitigating conflict. These efforts, sources say, are integral to both personal and professional stability, underscoring that recovery is rarely a solitary journey. Even as Amy Slaton made significant strides in her private recovery, the outside world loomed large, relentless, and unforgiving. The cameras may have stopped rolling, but the scrutiny had only intensified. Every post, every story shared by fans, every article circulating in tabloids acted as a constant reminder. The public had an opinion, and it was watching. Amy had to navigate a treacherous landscape where every word could be judged, every action dissected, and every attempt at rebuilding her life became fodder for debate. It was the ultimate test. Could she reclaim her agency and rebuild her narrative without being consumed by the very spotlight that had contributed to her struggles? The first challenge emerged almost immediately: social media. Despite her hiatus, Amy's followers remained intensely invested in her life. While supportive messages poured in, there were also waves of criticism, skepticism, and unsolicited advice. Hashtags such as #AmyStrong and #SupportAmy dominated fan discussions, but they were counterbalanced by trending topics questioning her readiness to return to public life. Experts note that navigating this digital minefield is among the most challenging aspects of modern celebrity recovery. The court of public opinion can be both a lifeline and a trap, says media psychologist Dr. Elaine Harper. It's motivating when positive, but toxic when negative, and the stakes for someone in recovery are incredibly high. Amy's first steps toward public reintegration were cautious and calculated. Sources reveal that she began sharing glimpses of her daily life, carefully curated to highlight progress without exposing vulnerabilities prematurely. Every post was measured, designed to communicate authenticity, responsibility, and a commitment to growth. Videos documenting healthy routines, therapy sessions, and personal reflections were shared with an emphasis on honesty rather than spectacle. This approach aimed to rebuild trust with fans while avoiding the pitfalls that had led to her earlier public struggles. Behind the scenes, Amy also began to explore potential professional opportunities. While TLC remained closed, Alternative platforms and networks quietly expressed interest in collaborating conditional, undocumented, recovery and responsible public engagement. Amy's team reportedly engaged in careful negotiations, emphasizing transparency, adherence to treatment, and a long-term vision that prioritized well-being over immediate profit. There's a fine line between leveraging fame and exploiting vulnerability, notes one entertainment analyst. Amy's strategy seems designed to respect that line while reclaiming her narrative. As Amy cautiously returned to public engagement, the fan community played a critical role. Grassroots support networks emerged, offering resources for addiction recovery, mental health advice, and general encouragement. These communities, some of which had formed years earlier around Amy's reality show, became a source of emotional reinforcement. Supportive comments flooded her posts, providing tangible evidence that a segment of the audience believed in second chances. Yet the duality of public attention remained. While many were cheering her on, others scrutinized every detail, waiting for missteps or contradictions. The process of reintegration also highlighted the evolving dynamics within Amy's family. Tammy's role continued to be pivotal, offering guidance, accountability, and emotional support. However, the sisters faced new challenges, particularly in establishing boundaries between private recovery and public appearances. Sources reveal that debates arose over social media content, public statements, and potential media engagements. Each decision carried weight. Too much exposure could risk relapse, while too little could hinder professional resurgence. It's a delicate dance, explains a family friend. They're learning to navigate the public eye while protecting what's most important, Amy's health and stability. Amy's cautious return coincided with growing media interest. Reporters, eager for updates, intensified coverage of her journey, speculating on potential career moves and the broader implications of her story. Some outlets framed her return as a redemption narrative, focusing on resilience and personal growth, while others emphasized the drama of the past relapse. This dual narrative created both opportunity and risk. Amy could reshape public perception, but missteps could easily be amplified. Amid these pressures, Amy reportedly began exploring creative projects designed to redefine her public persona. Ideas ranged from motivational speaking and digital content creation to health advocacy and personal documentaries. Each potential project emphasized authentic storytelling, allowing her to share lessons learned from addiction, relapse, and recovery. Insiders note that these opportunities not only offered professional pathways, but also created a platform for broader social impact, particularly in raising awareness about mental health, substance abuse, and the pressures of public life. Emotional journey of reintegration was no less intense. Amy had to confront lingering shame, anxiety, and fear of judgment, while simultaneously cultivating confidence and agency. Mental health professionals working with her emphasized the importance of incremental exposure to public life, combining therapy, family support, and structured public engagement to ensure stability. Sources indicate that Amy's daily routine included guided media interactions, controlled social media engagement, and reflective practices to reinforce resilience. Industry experts suggest that Amy's experience highlights broader trends in reality, television, and celebrity culture. Modern stars are no longer confined to network constraints. Digital platforms allow for controlled storytelling and audience interaction. However, the line between empowerment and exploitation remains precarious. Amy's cautious approach demonstrates a strategic understanding of this landscape. She is reclaiming her narrative while protecting both personal and professional futures. Public reaction to Amy's reintegration has been a mixture of hope, skepticism, and cautious optimism. Some fans express excitement at her potential comeback, citing her resilience and determination as inspiring. Others remain wary, questioning whether the risks of public exposure could jeopardize her recovery. Social media metrics reflect this. Tension. Engagement is high, with passionate debate underscoring the intensity of public investment. Fans are not just watching a television personality, notes media analyst James Corin. They are emotionally invested in her as a human being. That connection is both a gift and a challenge. The professional implications of Amy's careful re-entry into public life are significant. While TLC remains inaccessible, alternative networks and platforms reportedly continue to monitor her progress. Sources suggest that successful rehabilitation and responsible public engagement could open doors to collaborations, content creation, and advocacy work. These opportunities represent a new model of career recovery, one in which authenticity, accountability, and social impact are prioritized over traditional celebrity metrics. Cultural. Observers note that Amy's story resonates far beyond the realm of reality television. Addiction, relapse, and recovery are universal challenges, and her highly public journey has sparked conversations about stigma, empathy, and accountability. Support networks, fan communities, and media outlets have all engaged in dialogue about the responsibilities of both individuals and institutions in promoting recovery and resilience. Amy's experience serves as a touchstone for broader societal discussions about mental health, public scrutiny, and the complexities of personal transformation under the glare of fame. Amy Slaton's journey had always been anything but ordinary, and as she began to step cautiously back into public life, the stakes had never been higher. The world watched with bated breath, each social media post and public appearance dissected, debated, and analyzed. For Amy, this wasn't just about a career, it was about reclaiming her identity, proving her resilience, and showing the world that a relapse didn't define her. Every move mattered, every choice was scrutinized, and every moment had the potential to either elevate her or push her further into controversy. The first step in this delicate comeback was establishing a clear, controlled presence online. Sources reveal that Amy's team meticulously planned her re-entry, using social media as both a platform for transparency and a shield against exploitation. Carefully crafted posts highlighted her recovery, wellness routines, and personal reflections, emphasizing accountability without sensationalism. Each video or image was selected to communicate growth, responsibility, and authenticity. Fans responded, immediately flooding her pages with encouragement, praise, and admiration for her courage in sharing the difficult journey publicly. But social media wasn't just a tool for engagement, it was a testing ground. Experts note that online platforms are both a lifeline and a minefield for public figures in recovery. Positive feedback can reinforce self-confidence, while negative commentary can trigger anxiety or relapse. Amy's team reportedly implemented strict guidelines for interaction, limiting exposure to toxic commentary while amplifying supportive voices. They also scheduled controlled live streams and Q&A sessions, allowing Amy to engage with fans in a structured, supportive environment. Behind the scenes, Amy began exploring professional opportunities that aligned with her personal journey. Interviews, motivational speaking engagements, and digital content creation became focal points. Sources indicate that she was approached by streaming platforms interested in documenting her recovery story, with the stipulation that her process remained authentic and transparent. Unlike the past, where network imperatives sometimes overshadowed personal well-being, these opportunities offered a chance to share her narrative on her own terms. Family support continued to play an essential role. Amy Slaton, ever the steadfast ally, guided Amy through the emotional and logistical complexities of public engagement. The sisters navigated difficult conversations about boundaries, public appearances, and media exposure, ensuring that Amy's return was both safe and meaningful. Sources close to the family emphasized that while tensions arose, as they naturally do, in moments of high stress, the overarching focus was always on recovery, stability, and personal growth. Other family members, while supportive, remained cautious, often advocating for slower engagement with media and fans. The delicate balancing act of personal and public life was ongoing, requiring patience, strategy, and constant communication. As Amy re-entered the public sphere, the media response was intense. News outlets, entertainment platforms, and reality TV analysts closely followed her every move. Some framed her return as a triumphant story of resilience and recovery, highlighting her determination and newfound strength. Others approached it with skepticism, questioning the authenticity of her rehabilitation and the potential for future missteps. This polarized media landscape required Amy and her team to carefully curate interactions, ensuring that her message of growth and accountability remained clear. One of the most significant developments during this period was Amy's exploration of advocacy and education. Sources reveal that she expressed interest in speaking openly about addiction, relapse, and mental health, aiming to use her platform to raise awareness and reduce stigma. Amy's experiences, once a source of shame and scrutiny, were being reframed as powerful lessons for a broader audience. Interviews, podcasts, and public appearances emphasized education, prevention, and empathy, signaling a shift from personal drama to social impact. Experts note that Amy's approach reflects a broader trend in celebrity culture, where authenticity and social responsibility increasingly intersect. By sharing her story responsibly, she positioned herself as both a survivor and an advocate. This dual role offered professional opportunities while simultaneously contributing to societal discourse on mental health, addiction, and recovery. It was a strategy designed to transform personal adversity into a source of empowerment for herself and for those facing similar challenges. Amy's cautious, calculated approach extended to professional partnerships as well. Sources indicate that streaming services, digital media platforms, and health-focused networks expressed interest in collaborative projects contingent upon documented recovery and ongoing accountability. These projects included personal documentaries, wellness content, and health advocacy series. Each initiative emphasized Amy's journey beyond television drama, positioning her as a figure of resilience and inspiration. The public's reception to Amy's comeback was complex, but largely positive. Fans praised her courage, celebrated her milestones, and engaged actively with her content. Hashtags such as #AmyStrong, #RecoveryJourney, and #SecondChances trended across platforms, reflecting widespread support. At the same time, critics remained vigilant, reminding the world that recovery is ongoing, fragile, and requires sustained effort. Amy's team acknowledged these realities, emphasizing transparency and honesty while reinforcing boundaries against harassment or exploitation. Amy's comeback also highlighted the evolving relationship between reality television and its stars. Historically, networks prioritized entertainment value over personal well-being, often exploiting crises for ratings. Amy's experience, however, demonstrated a different model, one in which personal health, narrative control, and ethical responsibility could coexist with professional opportunities. Media analysts suggest that her approach may influence how networks and platforms interact with reality stars in the future, emphasizing support structures and accountability alongside storytelling. Mental health professionals working with Amy underscored the importance of integrating therapeutic support with public engagement. Individual therapy, family counseling, and structured media interactions formed a comprehensive framework to sustain recovery. Dr. Karen Mitchell, a psychologist specializing in addiction, notes Amy's strategy of combining personal growth, professional engagement, and advocacy is a strong model. Recovery is ongoing, but with these structures, the likelihood of sustaining progress increases dramatically. The broader cultural impact of Amy's journey became increasingly apparent. Her story sparked conversations about the pressures of fame, the consequences of public scrutiny, and the importance of empathy in assessing personal crises. Media outlets and fan communities alike engaged in debates about accountability, second chances, and societal responsibility toward public figures struggling with addiction. Amy's narrative evolved from personal tragedy to a touchstone for broader discussions about mental health, resilience, and transformation. As Amy's comeback gained momentum, professional opportunities continued to expand. Projects under consideration ranged from wellness-focused digital series to motivational speaking tours and educational initiatives. Each endeavor emphasized authenticity, responsibility, and personal growth. Sources indicate that Amy approached these opportunities with caution, understanding that any misstep could undermine her credibility and jeopardize her recovery. Her strategy was deliberate: rebuild trust, reinforce boundaries, and leverage her platform for positive impact. At the same time, Amy faced the challenge of redefining her identity outside the shadow of TLC, the network, while close to her for the foreseeable future, remained a reference point for fans and media alike. Amy's task was to transform the narrative from scandal and relapse to resilience and empowerment. This required not only public engagement but also introspection, reflection, and sustained personal development. Fans, family, and media observers alike recognized the stakes. Every public interaction, social media post, and professional endeavor was being monitored, debated, and interpreted. Amy's ability to navigate this intense scrutiny would determine the trajectory of her comeback. Success depended not only on personal growth, but also on strategic public engagement, careful professional planning, and consistent accountability. As Amy Slaton continued to navigate her journey of recovery and public reinvention, the world watched intently, captivated by each choice, each step forward, and each moment of vulnerability. This was no longer just a story about a reality TV star. It was a story about resilience, accountability, and the human capacity to transform adversity into empowerment. From the depths of a public relapse to the cusp of a personal and professional resurgence, Amy's saga had captivated millions, and Part 6 chronicles the culmination of her journey, the lessons learned, and the enduring impact on both her life and the culture surrounding reality television. Amy's reinvention began with a profound personal commitment to reclaim her narrative on her own terms. Sources close to her reveal that she spent months reflecting on her past, the choices that led to her relapse, and the structural pressures of life under the relentless gaze of cameras and public scrutiny. Each reflection, each insight became a cornerstone of her strategy, not just to return to public life, but to redefine it. This was about more than television. It was about reclaiming her identity, her dignity, and her voice. Amy's team reportedly encouraged journaling, therapy, and structured self-reflection, ensuring that every public appearance and social media engagement aligned with her personal growth and long-term vision. Family remained central to Amy's journey. Amy Slaton, her sister and lifelong ally, continued to provide unwavering support, balancing empathy with accountability. Sources indicate that the sisters developed a routine of daily check-ins, therapy sessions, and collaborative planning for media interactions. Other family members, while initially skeptical, observed Amy's consistent progress and gradually lent their support. The family's evolving dynamic showcased not only the power of sibling bonds, but also the critical importance of a supportive network in navigating the aftermath of public scandal. Through both public appearances and private interactions, Amy demonstrated that personal accountability and family support were mutually reinforcing, offering a blueprint for recovery that extended beyond entertainment. Amy's relationship with the media evolved as well. Where once reporters chased sensational headlines, now coverage highlighted her recovery, her advocacy, and her personal growth. Carefully coordinated interviews emphasized transparency, lessons learned, and the importance of mental health awareness. Amy avoided sensationalism, opting instead for candid, controlled disclosures that humanized her struggle without inviting exploitation. Analysts noted that her approach reflected a broader shift in celebrity culture, where authenticity, responsibility, and advocacy increasingly intersect. By taking ownership of her narrative, Amy transformed herself from a figure of scandal into a symbol of resilience and empowerment. Social media, once a minefield of criticism and speculation, became a platform for connection, education, and advocacy. Amy's posts about recovery routines, mental health strategies, and lessons learned resonated with a broad audience. Fans responded with encouragement, sharing their own experiences with addiction, relapse, and recovery. Hashtags like #AmyRebuilds, #RecoveryIsPossible, and #SecondChances began trending across platforms, reflecting a groundswell of support. At the same time, Amy's team implemented safeguards, carefully managing engagement to prevent negative commentary from undermining her progress. The careful orchestration of public presence reinforced the narrative of controlled, responsible reinvention, setting a standard for how public figures can navigate personal challenges under scrutiny. Professionally, Amy explored diverse opportunities that allowed her to leverage her experience while maintaining authenticity. Sources reveal that streaming platforms, digital media channels, and wellness brands expressed interest in collaborations that emphasized health, recovery, and personal growth. Amy participated in documentary-style content highlighting her rehabilitation journey, motivational speaking engagements focused on mental health awareness, and digital series promoting wellness and self-care. Each initiative was carefully curated to reinforce her personal narrative, demonstrating both responsibility and agency. By selectively engaging with projects that aligned with her values, Amy showcased a model for career resilience that went beyond traditional reality television. Critically, Amy's story highlighted the ethical responsibilities of networks and media organizations. Whereas her initial experiences on TLC emphasized drama and sensationalism, her comeback illustrated the potential for media to support rather than exploit individuals in crisis. Experts in media ethics noted that Amy's experience could influence how reality television platforms approach addiction, mental health, and public exposure of personal struggles. Her case underscored the importance of proactive intervention, structured support, and transparent communication between cast members and networks, potentially reshaping industry standards for years to come. The personal impact of Amy's transformation extended far beyond professional achievements. Sources close to her report a profound shift in self-perception, confidence, and emotional stability. Therapy, family support, and structured public engagement contributed to a renewed sense of agency. Amy began prioritizing wellness, mindfulness, and sustainable lifestyle changes, integrating lessons from her relapse into a comprehensive approach to personal growth. She described feeling empowered by the knowledge that she could navigate challenges with accountability, resilience, and integrity, a message that resonated deeply with fans and advocates alike. Public reception of Amy's reinvention was mixed but largely supportive. Longtime fans celebrated her courage, sharing stories of personal inspiration and expressing admiration for her transparency. Social media communities organize campaigns promoting recovery resources, mental health awareness, and support networks, often citing Amy's journey as a catalyst for broader engagement. Critics, while maintaining some skepticism, acknowledged her consistent progress and her commitment to controlled, meaningful public engagement. Analysts suggested that her measured approach, transparent, accountable, and socially conscious, enhanced both her credibility and her influence as a public figure. Amy's journey also carried broader cultural implications by confronting the challenges of addiction, relapse, and public scrutiny in a highly visible forum. She sparked conversations about stigma, accountability, and empathy. Her story challenged audiences to reconsider assumptions about personal failure, resilience, and the pressures of fame. Media commentators highlighted the ways in which her experience illuminated systemic challenges in reality television, while simultaneously demonstrating the potential for individuals to reclaim narrative agency under intense public scrutiny. Amy's story became both a cautionary tale and a model for redemption, resonating with audiences across demographic and cultural lines. A pivotal aspect of Amy's reinvention was the integration of advocacy into her professional and personal identity. By sharing insights from her recovery journey, she promoted awareness of addiction, mental health, and relapse prevention. Educational content, public speaking engagements, and collaborations with wellness organizations amplified her voice, allowing her to influence public discourse meaningfully. Amy's narrative emphasized both accountability and compassion, reinforcing the idea that personal struggles need not define one's entire life or career. Her advocacy work offered tangible benefits to others facing similar challenges, creating a legacy that extended beyond entertainment. The culmination of Amy's efforts manifested in her ability to reconcile her public persona with her private life. She demonstrated that controlled engagement, strategic transparency, and robust support systems could coexist with professional ambition. By carefully balancing media presence with personal well-being, she established a model for long-term sustainability and impact. Fans, media experts, and mental health professionals alike noted that Amy's trajectory offered a blueprint for other public figures navigating personal crises under scrutiny, highlighting the importance of agency, accountability, and structured support. As the final chapter of her story unfolded, Amy's narrative came full circle. From a rising reality television star to a figure embroiled in scandal and relapse, she had transformed her trajectory into a story of resilience, empowerment, and redemption. Her experiences underscored the human capacity to learn from failure, rebuild one's life, and leverage adversity as a catalyst for growth. The public witnessed not merely a recovery, but a reinvention, an evolution that reflected both personal strength and strategic foresight. In conclusion, Amy Slaton's journey illustrates the multifaceted nature of resilience in the modern media landscape. By confronting personal challenges with transparency, engaging thoughtfully with public perception, and leveraging her platform for advocacy, she transcended the limitations of her prior circumstances. Her story serves as both an inspiration and a guide, demonstrating that public figures can reclaim agency, rebuild careers, and influence cultural conversations meaningfully. Fans, family, and the broader public now recognize that Amy's narrative is no longer defined by scandal or controversy, but by the transformative power of recovery, accountability, and personal growth. As viewers continue to follow Amy's journey, one lesson stands clear: the human capacity for reinvention, when paired with courage, support, and accountability, can turn even the most public and painful crises into enduring stories of empowerment. Amy Slaton's saga, filled with drama, controversy, An ultimate redemption has forever reshaped the narrative of reality television, illustrating that second chances are not only possible, they can be powerful, transformative, and inspiring on a scale few could have imagined.